Today, we work together with investigative journalists, civil society activists, corporate lawyers, representatives of specialized government institutions and the European Commission, discussing how to do better in protecting the rights of those who are reporting on wrongdoings.
Today in my presentation, I reflected on the importance of whistleblowing and I reflected on one of the cases that really sparked the momentum that led to the EU Directive. It's important, although we're with this project very much in the weeds, so to speak, in the detail of the transposition, not to lose sight of why we do this, which is that whistleblowers make our countries better places, they make our democracies better, they ensure accountability and transparency in the public interest. I reflected today on what I saw as three themes animating some of our sessions during this really important workshop. The first theme being getting whistleblower protections right on paper. So there have been a number of issues during the transposition process and there are some lingering technical challenges that are faced. And it's really important that these laws are as strong and robust as possible, with as few loopholes and gaps as possible. So firstly, we need to make sure these laws are right. Then we need to make sure the laws have robust institutional support. So where in government are the bodies, the oversight bodies, the enforcement bodies that can receive whistleblower disclosures, that can help whistleblowers, that can oversee and enforce these important laws. And finally, I touched on the need for civil society to play a really important role in assisting whistleblowers, supporting whistleblowers, advising whistleblowers in practice. So what we've seen all around the world, the common story of whistleblowing legislation is that even once it's introduced on paper, it takes a long time for it to take effect in practice, with whistleblowers actually able to use these protections and be vindicated by these protections because of a lack of support, particularly legal support. So a really critical role for civil society to play with these protections is to help whistleblowers access these laws, because if they can't, then there's no point in having them.
I think it's been really useful today to hear interventions, particularly from the Slovakian Independent Whistleblowing Authority, to share the model that they have introduced with regards to providing advice and assistance and also protection to whistleblowers, standards for employers in terms of effective institutional arrangements.
The Commission is currently ensuring the transposition of the directive in several ways. On the one hand, we are supporting member states in the transposition efforts, and at the same time the Commission is checking the transposition already made in member states. Before the adoption of the Whistleblower Directive, the situation was quite fragmented, both at EU level as well as at national level. So we had sectorial rules in place at union law level, notably in sectors like financial services or anti-money laundering. The Whistleblower Directive pursues mainly two objectives. The first is ensuring the enforcement of union law, and on the other hand, the directive also aims to protect fundamental rights, in particular the right to freedom of expression.
Following the adoption of the EU Directive on whistleblowing in late 2019, WIN established the EU Whistleblowing Monitor to track developments across the 27 EU member states and to provide publicly available information on the process so that citizens could engage and hold their governments to account for a timely and responsible transposition approach. What we've seen in terms of trends is that, as well as some delays in the process, we're now 1 year and 3 months at least past the official 17th of December 2021 deadline for all member states to fully transpose this directive, is that there is a lot of hesitation and confusion, particularly with regards to interpretation of the text of the directive, and some strong opposing voices who are keen not to have a more progressive approach. When whistleblowers fall short, unfortunately that may reduce trust and confidence in the overall framework. And this will undermine, if you like, what's called the spirit or the tenet of the directive, which is really to promote disclosure of information, as is needed for democratic accountability.
The International Bar Association has published 2 reports in relation to the protection of whistleblowers and the importance of having best practice in this space. Today I presented the findings of both reports, the key aspects of both, and looked to share the recommendations to see whether that could inform and help other entities here who are considering the position in their jurisdictions. What's important that we found in our research was there was very little information about cases available. So when you're trying to do research on the effectiveness of a law or a regime, to see that there's few reported cases means that it's a really difficult one to determine, is it working? We know that many cases are settled outside court, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if there's a lack of transparency, you cannot fully determine the efficacy of the process. I think if you don't have effective whistleblower protection mechanisms in place, then in that environment, corruption is pervasive. So there does need to be proper systems and mechanisms in place to ensure that people can report wrongdoing, knowing that they won't be penalised for doing so, and that people can be held to account.
It's really exciting to get so many people together in a room, passionate about whistleblower protections, because ultimately whistleblowers are making these jurisdictions and indeed our entire world a better place. Without people who speak up about wrongdoing, without people who speak truth to power, we don't have accountability, we don't have transparency, and in our democracies we need that very much.